One of the consequences of this crazy, surreal season that we are all in is that there seems to be an increase in clarity, an increase in insight about what really matters in life and what does not matter so much. I hear this phrase, what really matters, from people in all ages and stages of life. For example, I was recently Zooming with a bride and groom, a wonderful couple that were scheduled to get married in the middle of the summer. And their wedding was going to be uber elegant. It was going to be at a glorious venue that had a gorgeous view of the water in a historic villa. There were going to be hundreds of family and friends at a very elegant affair. And it's now all up for grabs. Nobody knows exactly what will be. And I was talking to this couple about the fact that their plans, their dreams were up in the air. And I asked them, what could I do to be helpful? And they said, very simple. Just hold the date. Hold the date, I said, but we don't know that you're going to be able to get married in this venue on that date. And they said, it doesn't matter. We now really understand what really matters in life. What really matters is not the venue, not the view, not the villa. What really matters is not the china, not the flowers, not the linens. What really matters is our love. We love each other, we want to get married. If it will be virtual, if it will be without bells and whistles, if it will be without fanfare, family and friends, that doesn't really matter. What really matters is that we get married. Please hold the date. Similarly, in this COVID season, we have had a long and strong run of bar and bat mitzvah families who've had their wonderful 13-year-olds celebrate this big life cycle moment. And almost all these families had planned a very big and festive bar or bat mitzvah family. And while they had to work their way through not having that bar or bat mitzvah party, and it took some work to adjust themselves to the new reality, to a family, each family came to the same basic conclusion, which is, in the end, what really matters is not the party. What really matters is that their children learn the lesson of resilience and that we have to play the hand that is dealt us with strength and grace. And to a family, each family thought that their son or their daughter played the hand that was dealt them, a COVID-19 bar bat mitzvah. They played that hand with strength and with grace. They could not have been. These parents, these families could not have been more proud of their children, and they could not have found the bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah service that showcased their strength and grace, could not have found that more meaningful. What really matters. Well, just one last example, and this is so real. I've had this conversation with so many people, and I've had this conversation with myself so many times, is the conversation with people about hair and nails. That is to say, so many people say to me, they get up in the morning and they look in the mirror and they say, hair to spare, or nails to spare, and they have the tradition of going to their salon regularly, and they haven't been forever, and they don't know when they're going, and oh my God, I look like a mess. And then all those conversations always end the same way. They say, but I do realize that in the end, hair and nails are not what really matters. What really matters are 1,000 things. Hair and nails don't even make the list. Now, here's my question for you on the second day of Pesach. I have no doubt that the people who offer up these insights about what really matters, they feel it at the time, they're deeply convicted, and it is true at the time that they say it. But here's my question. How enduring is it? How durable are these insights? Let's just play the counter-narrative game for a second to kind of kick the tires over here. Let's play the counter-narrative game. Let's imagine a world in which the relevant authorities, the health authorities, and the governmental authorities all say, you know what, this lockdown is over as of the end of May. Beginning on June 1, it is safe to go back to the life that you had before the COVID-19 shutdown. Please, all these authorities say, go back and eat at restaurants and get on airplanes and travel and go back to big public gatherings, go back to shaking hands and giving hugs, go back to the world of big crowds and crowded places once again. Now, if that were to happen, I would imagine there's a high likelihood that the bride and groom who realize that what really matters is that they get married, they probably have their wedding in that villa, with that view, in that venue, with the linens and the china and the flowers. I would imagine that a good number of our COVID-19 bar and bat mitzvah families would, in the summer or in the fall, reschedule those parties that didn't matter during the actual bar and bat mitzvah that they didn't have. And I have no doubt that all the people who are suffering from hair despair and nails despair, who think that in the end hair and nails don't really matter, would rush to the salon to get the earliest appointment they could get, and would then get back on track and have their regular appointments every week, every month, every 3 weeks, whatever it is, they would go back to it. So, here's the question. When people say what really matters is this insight, but this insight doesn't last when we get back to normal, how do we understand that? So, this whole conundrum of the insights born of COVID-19 have helped me to understand a problem with the Haggadah that I've had all my years. I've never understood it. And now COVID finally sheds a light on this problematic part of the Haggadah, which is, of course, Dayeinu. Dayeinu, as you all know, is the song in which the poet says that if God had only done one particular kindness, not all of the kindnesses that God did for the Jewish people, if God had only done one kindness, it would have been enough. And the famous problem with this song is that that premise is not true. It's false. If God only did this and didn't do the rest, it wouldn't have been enough. Take just one example. The poet says, Ilu natan lanu et ha-Torah, v'lo hichnisanu l'Eretz Yisrael Dayeinu. If God had only given us the Torah, but had not taken us to the land of Israel, that would have been enough. Now, why do we possibly say that? Why do we possibly sing that with gusto when we know it's not true? Jewish history absolutely belies that claim. If the Jewish people only have the Torah of Israel without the land of Israel, well, 2,000 years of Jewish history tells us what that looks like. It looks like expulsions, inquisitions, persecutions, massacres, legislation, demonization, the Dreyfus trial, vulnerability, culminating in the Shoah. The land of Israel is crucial to our future. The Torah of Israel, without the land of Israel, means lots of spilled Jewish blood. So why is it then that we sing, if we only had Torah and we didn't have land, that would be enough, when we know it's not true? And by the way, right after Pesach, not even a week after Pesach, we mark Yom HaShoah. And just 1 week later, we mark Yom HaAtzmaut. So we know it's not true. We know that the answer to Jewish vulnerability is our beloved Eretz Yisrael. So why do we sing this line when we know it's not true? So, marinating on all these insights born of COVID that are stated with clarity and conviction and are not true in the long run, and thinking about Dayeinu, all the things that we say which are not true and we sing it with gusto, had me think more deeply now about the meaning of the word enough. What is the meaning of the word enough? When we say X is enough, X would be enough, what does enough mean? And I now come to understand that enough is contextual and it is fluid. It is not absolute and it is not static. It is contextual and it is fluid. In other words, when we say X is enough, what we're saying is X is enough in this moment, in this world, with where I am now. But if you change the moment, if you change the context, if you change the world, if you change where I am in the world, then whether X is enough also changes. So for example, to come to today, when a pandemic is raging, and when unbearably large numbers of people are getting infected and struggling for life, and the healthcare industry is on the verge of collapse and the economy has collapsed, in all those cases, it is true that the party doesn't matter. And it is true that hair and nails don't matter. And in this context, it is true to say, if the people that I love are alive and healthy, that would be enough. But change the context. If we're out of this severe moment, if we're back in a different world, remember that enough is contextual and it is fluid. It is not absolute and it is not static. If we go back to a different world, that bride and groom could well say, hey, this is the dream of our life, to find a love that's covenantal. We want everything about that day to be perfect. And that means linen and china matter. And the bar and bat mitzvah families in a different world would say, wow, our son, our daughter worked so hard for this. We're so proud of our young adult. We want a party to mark this moment. And all of us who are suffering with hair despair say, wait a minute, how we look actually does matter. How we look does affect how we feel. How we look does affect how we're seen. How we look does affect how effective we are. I'm making that appointment. It's not enough for me to not take care of my appearance. Appearance matters. So, at the deepest level, I have come to the following understanding. When you say X is enough, it's not about X, it's about you. It's not about the quantity of X, and it's not about the quality of X. When you say X is enough, it is a statement about your own adaptability and your own resilience. Look at it this way. What you're really saying at the deepest level is, I have what I need. I have what I need to be good, to be full, to be content. I have what I need to thrive. Or looked at it differently, what I don't have, I don't need. What I'm not going to get, I don't need. What is beyond my ken, what is beyond my grasp, I don't need. So I think it actually cultivates a very healthy mindset. I have what I need. Let's look back at Dayeinu again. Turns out this line is totally true in this way, and we can sing it with gusto. These Israelite slaves, what did they have? Well, they did have the Torah because they stood at Sinai, but they weren't going to get the land of Israel. That was going to be for their children's generation. So for that generation that did have the Torah and did not and was not going to have the land of Israel, if I have the Torah of Israel, that would be enough. I'm going to make do. I'm going to make do with what I've got. I have what I need. What I don't have, I don't need. I have what I need. What I don't have, I don't need. I have the Torah, Dayeinu. And I have felt the power of this insight, that it is a good mindset to cultivate. What I don't have, I don't need. What I do have, that's all I need. I felt the power of it. I think we have all felt the power of it over the last few nights. One of shares in my tradition, we've been together for 37 years, is every year before the Pesach Seders, we take a picture of the Seder table. And invariably, it's the most generous table and the most beautiful table and the most aesthetically pleasing table of the year. It's got Seder plates that are horizontal and Seder plates that are vertical and all artistic creations. There are matzah covers that are beautiful. There's decanters and wine bottles and kiddush cups. There's pillows that look so sumptuous. There are haggadot that are so important and beautiful and timeless. And depending on the night, there's either 20-something people or 30-something people, and you can see that, and it just is Pesach. These are our favorite nights of the year. We take a snapshot of our Seder table every year, every night of Pesach. Last 2 nights, our Pesach Seder table, like yours, was 3 people. Me, Shira, Sam, computer screen. Was that enough? You bet. It was enough for now, not forever, not for next year, but for now, a table of 3, that's all we've got. Table of 3, that's all I need. Table of 3, Dayeinu. Chag Sameach.